so vast that entire worlds can vanish inside it. Beyond every mountain range, another kingdom waits in silence. Beyond every fog-covered river, a story older than any empire still drifts between the stones. Today, we are opening a door that very few travelers have ever stepped through. A journey into places where ancient towns float on sleepy rivers, where sacred mountains disappear into the clouds, and where frozen valleys hold a kind of stillness that feels older than time itself. You will walk through alleys where red lanterns have glowed for 1,000 years. You will stand beneath Buddha statues carved into living cliffs. You will feel the wind of the high Tibetan plateau sweep across lakes so clear they become mirrors of the sky. You will hear the echo of monks who vanished into the mist, the howl of wind through deserts that once were cities, and the silence of glaciers that hold memories older than human history. Each destination you are about to see carries its own secret. Some are written in stone. Others are whispered through legends passed down across generations. And a few remain unexplained even today. This is not a journey you take with your feet. It is one you take with something deeper. The part of you that still remembers how small we are and how vast the world truly is. Get ready for a journey that may quietly change the way you see our planet. Phoenix Ancient Town. Our first stop is Phoenix Ancient Town, known in Chinese as Feng Huang, resting along the banks of the Tuojiang River in Hunan Province. Wooden stilt houses lean gently over the water, their dark tiled roofs catching the morning mist as fishermen drift past in long, narrow boats. The alleys are paved with stones worn smooth by 300 years of footsteps, and the air always seems to carry the quiet scent of rain. Small wooden bridges arch across the river at intervals, connecting neighborhoods that have kept the same rhythm of daily life for generations. In the early hours before sunrise, women in traditional Miao dress still wash clothes along the riverbanks, just as their grandmothers did a century ago. Legend says the town was named after the mythical phoenix, a bird that appears only in times of peace. On foggy mornings, some elders insist the rising mist still shapes itself into wings above the river. At night, red lanterns light up every corner of the town, and their reflections ripple across the water until the entire river seems to burn softly with gold. Nongsun Onshin Town. A short journey east brings us to Nongsun, a quiet water town in Zhejiang Province, where canals weave gently through neighborhoods of ivory-colored walls and black-tiled roofs. Arched stone bridges, some older than 5 centuries, cross the water every few hundred meters. In the evening, red lanterns reflect on the canals, turning the entire town into a warm, amber dream. Nongsun was once among the wealthiest silk trading centers in Imperial China. And behind its modest exterior lie hidden mansions with painted ceilings, private libraries, and ornamental gardens that still whisper of a forgotten golden age. Qingzhou Ancient City. In Shandong Province, we step into Qingzhou Ancient City, a place that served as a political and cultural capital for dynasties long faded from living memory. Its streets hold the weight of history, stone pavilions, ancien temple, and walls etched with poetry sit quietly beside modern life. Among them, Zhangjiajie Temple, built during the Yuan dynasty, still welcomes visitors to walk through spaces where prayers have echoed for more than 700 years. Local stories remember Qingzhou as the birthplace of poets and thinkers whose verses shaped the soul of Chinese literature. Hoh Xil Ancestral Hall, further south in Wuxi, Jiangsu Province, stands the Huishan Ancestral Hall, a sacred place built in the 14th century during the Ming Dynasty. This was not a temple for gods, but a memorial for ancestors. The noble family who founded it wanted their descendants, even 1,000 years later, to feel the quiet presence of those who came before. Carved wooden beams tell family stories. Curved rooftops symbolize the sweep of heaven above earth. And even today, descendants return to leave offerings in courtyards that have never truly fallen silent. Wangshan Valley. Hidden deep in the forests of Jiangxi Province lies Wangxian Valley, whose name means the place where one looks for immortals. According to Taoist tradition, wise sages once retreated here to escape the noise of the world. And some legends say they found the path to eternal life along these quiet ridges. The valley unfolds with soft limestone peaks, cool morning fog, and wooden pavilions that look as if they grew naturally from the mountainsides. Streams run clear over smooth stones. And in autumn, the maple leaves turn the entire landscape into a painting of golden flame. Leshan West Sea. In the highlands of Jiangxi, Leshan West Sea stretches across a landscape where mountain and water exist in perfect balance. The lake is wide, still, and so clear that the surrounding peaks reflect on its surface with almost unreal precision. For over 1,000 years, scholars and monks came here seeking solitude. There is something about this place that invites reflection, a quality that modern visitors still describe as difficult to put into words. Yubeng Village, far to the southwest, hidden deep within the Meili Snow Mountain Range, sits the village of Yubeng. There are no roads that reach this place. The only way to arrive is on foot or by horseback, along steep trails, winding through ancient pine forests and across glacial streams. At an elevation of around 3,000 meters, Yubeng is wrapped in peaks that remain snow-covered year-round. Travelers who stay here often speak of the same strange effect. By the second night, their thoughts begin to slow, as if the mountains themselves are gently guiding them into stillness. Zonggu Valley. Not far from these realms lies Zonggu, a secret valley hidden inside ancient limestone forests. Dense fog covers the valley nearly every day of the year, and the forest floor glows deep green with moss so thick that footsteps fall silently. A story is still passed down among locals about a young girl who wandered into the valley and was lost for 3 days. On the 4th morning, she returned calm and unharmed. saying a white-haired woman had guided her across a bridge made of mist. No one ever found such a bridge, but the small footprints on the wet stones were remembered for days. Lake Basongkuo, on the Tibetan plateau. Lake Basongkuo rests at around 3,500 meters above sea level, surrounded by snow-capped mountains and pine forests that reach nearly to the water. The lake stretches almost 12 kilometers in length and holds such clarity that the reflections of the surrounding peaks form a mirrored world. Beneath its surface, ancient Buddhist temples stand on small islands in the middle of the water. On the 15th day of the 4th month of the Tibetan calendar, pilgrims gather here to walk around the lake in a sacred circle, their soft mantras drifting across the stillness. Heavenly Lake of Tian Shan. Further north rises Heavenly Lake, or Tianqi, cradled high in the Tian Shan mountain range of Xinjiang, at nearly 2,000 meters above sea level, surrounded by peaks that rise well above 5,000 meters. This lake has long been called the dwelling place of celestial beings. When sunlight strikes the water on a clear morning, its blue deepens into something that looks almost supernatural, like a jewel set into the heart of the mountains. In winter, the lake freezes entirely and becomes a vast white plain, silent and complete. Stone Forest of Yunnan. In Yunnan province, the stone forest is one of the strangest landscapes on the planet. Limestone pillars rise between 10 and 40 meters into the sky, standing so closely together that they form a true forest of stone. Some pillars look like swords raised toward heaven. Others resemble figures frozen mid-step. A few appear almost as if they are carved into the shapes of animals in motion, or watchful human faces. Narrow corridors weave between them like the halls of a natural labyrinth. And sound behaves strangely here, with footsteps echoing back from directions that do not match their source. At sunset, the stone turns soft gold, and long shadows stretch across the pathways, as if the forest itself is watching the day slip away. A legend of the local Sani people tells of a young woman whose forbidden love was shattered by the gods. To protect what she could not save, she turned her entire kingdom to stone. Some still claim to see her figure drifting between the pillars at twilight. And every year, the Sani people hold a festival in her memory with torches, songs, and dances that have been passed down for centuries. Baishui Terraces. Higher in the Yunnan Mountains, the Baishui Terraces flow down the hillsides like frozen waterfalls. These natural white terraces were formed over hundreds of thousands of years as mineral-rich spring water slowly deposited layers of pure calcium carbonate. From a distance, they look like pools of milk suspended on a mountainside. The local Naxi people believe their ancient Dongba script was first created here, taught to a wise ancestor by the spirits of the land. Waterfall. Returning north, we reach Hoh Xil waterfall on the Yellow River. The river narrows suddenly and plunges into a deep stone gorge with such force that mist rises almost 200 meters into the air on a warm summer day. The ground trembles beneath your feet. The sound can be heard from kilometers away. In Chinese tradition, the Yellow River is called the Mother of Civilization. and Hukou is one of her most sacred points. Farmers once left offerings here before crossing, believing that a powerful water spirit controlled the river's mood. Volcanic hot springs in southwest Yunnan, near the border with Myanmar. The Tenchong Volcanic Hot Springs Scenic Area is one of the most unusual landscapes in China. More than 80 natural hot springs bubble up from the earth, with water temperatures reaching nearly 95 degrees Celsius. The most famous pool is called the Big Boiling Pot, where locals demonstrate its heat by cooking eggs in the rising water. Around it live several ethnic minority groups whose festivals of fire, water, and ancestor reverence create an atmosphere both ancient and alive. Zhangjiajie Grasslands. On the open plains of Xinjiang, Zhangjiajie spreads across a landscape of rolling green hills, wildflower meadows, and distant snow peaks. Kazakh nomads still live here in traditional yurts, moving with the seasons as their ancestors have for countless generations. In summer, yellow rapeseed flowers cover the hills in wide ribbons, and the wind carries the scent of grass across valleys that seem to stretch forever. Horse races, long wooden flutes, and slow-cooked lamb under open skies define the rhythm of life here. Gaoyao Ridge. In Gansu Province, Ri's Gaoyao Ridge, one of the rare geological wonders shaped by Danxia formations, where red sandstone has eroded for millions of years into knife-like ridges and long wave-shaped mountains. Standing at 500 meters above the valleys below, visitors look out across deep canyons and rock forests that change color throughout the day. Local legend describes a great heavenly dragon whose body fell here during a storm and turned into these glowing red ridges. Some early morning hikers still report seeing a soft, luminous ribbon drifting along the peaks, which locals call the Dragon's Light, said to appear only to those chosen by the mountain. The Danxia landscapes. These Danxia landscapes stretch across many parts of southern and western China, carved by wind and rain over unimaginable timescales. Each cliff, each ridge, each flowing curve of red stone tells a story of an ancient seabed slowly lifted into the sky. Mount Emei. Now our journey ascends into the sacred mountains of China. Mount Emei in Sichuan rises to more than 3,000 meters and is one of the 4 sacred Buddhist mountains of the country. Its slopes are wrapped in deep forests, hidden waterfalls, and temples whose stone walls have stood for more than 1,500 years. Wild macaques roam the mountain paths freely, and pilgrims walking upward often pause to watch them leap between ancient pines. The air shifts as you climb, growing cooler and thinner, and the sound of temple bells seems to drift down from places you cannot yet see. The Golden Summit is one of the most revered sites in Buddhist culture. Above a sea of drifting clouds, the temple roofs catch the first light of sunrise. And pilgrims often describe a feeling of weightlessness when they reach the top, as if something unseen is quietly lifting their steps. On rare mornings, a phenomenon called the Buddha's halo appears where sunlight refracts through the clouds to create a glowing ring that surrounds the viewer's own shadow. Those who witness it are said to receive a blessing meant only for them. Mount Fanjing. In Guizhou province rises Mount Fanjing, a pillar of stone that emerges from surrounding forests like something dreamed into existence. Its main peak reaches about 2,500 meters, crowned by two narrow stone temples perched on a single vertical spire. The temples are linked by a small stone bridge and are said to represent the balance between the present Buddha and the Buddha of the future. Fanjing also shelters the rare Guizhou golden monkey, a species found nowhere else on Earth. UNESCO recognizes the mountain as a World Heritage Site for this reason, and Buddhists believe this was the very place where the Maitreya Buddha attained enlightenment. Mount Song in Henan province is another of the 5 great mountains of China, but its fame reaches far beyond its beauty. On its slope stands the Shaolin Monastery, founded in the year 495, which has been the heart of Chan Buddhism and the legendary birthplace of Chinese martial arts for more than 15 centuries. Even today, young monks train in wide stone courtyards at dawn. Their movements precise and silent, the mountain is considered an ideal meeting place of discipline, nature, and spirit. Leshan Giant Buddha in Sichuan. The Leshan Giant Buddha is among the most astonishing monuments in the world, carved directly into a cliff where 3 rivers meet. This stone, Buddha rises 71 meters tall, with shoulders nearly 28 meters wide and toes large enough for several people to stand on. His ears alone measure 7 meters across. Construction began in the year 713 during the Tang Dynasty and took more than 90 years to complete. The project was led by the monk Haitong, who believed the Buddha's presence would calm the violent rivers below. According to legend, Haitong gouged out his own eyes to prove his sincerity when local officials tried to seize the funds meant for the project. After his death, his disciples completed the work. Remarkably, the statue contains an intricate drainage system hidden in its body, with channels cut into the hair curls, the robes, and the chest, which has protected it from erosion for over 1,000 years. Today, the face of the Buddha still looks out across the river with a calm that has outlasted empires. Longmen Grotto's. Along the Yi River lie the Longmen Grottos, one of the greatest collections of Buddhist art ever created. Beginning in the late 5th century, emperors and artisans carved more than 100,000 Buddha statues into the limestone cliffs over 4 centuries. Some figures are smaller than a hand. The largest rises more than 17 meters tall. Her serene face, watching quietly over the river below, walking along the riverside paths, visitors are watched by thousands of stone faces, each one a prayer or devotion preserved in rock. In the softness of the late afternoon light, the stone seems to come alive, as if the 1,000-year silence of these carvings is only a pause in a conversation that never truly ended. Yungang Grottos. In Shanxi province, the Yungang Grottos tell a similar story. More than 50 caves hold over 50,000 Buddha statues, carved during the Northern Wei dynasty. What makes Yungang extraordinary is the visible blending of artistic influences from India, Central Asia, and China. A quiet record of how Buddhism itself traveled and transformed as it crossed continents. Mount Mian. Mount Mian in Shanxi rises into misty peaks, wrapped nearly all year round in soft cloud. Taoist tradition remembers a master who meditated here for many years. One spring, villagers brought him food and found only his folded robe on a stone, with a trail of mist leading upward. They believed he had ascended into the realm of immortals, and pilgrims still visit the spot today. Mount Pan in Tianjin rises about 850 meters above the surrounding plains. Its slopes are scattered with small temples where devotees come to pray for health, wisdom, and peace. The mountain has long been considered a quiet, spiritual center of northern China. Langya Mountain. Langya Mountain in Anhui Province is a place where nature and literature intertwine. It was here, nearly 1,000 years ago, that the Song Dynasty scholar Tuojiang River wrote one of the most beloved essays in Chinese literary history, describing the joy of wine, friendship, and walking in nature. The Zui Wang Pavilion, built to honor him, still stands along the mountain paths. Tianzu Mountain. Also in Anhai, rises like an enormous stone pillar, which is the meaning of its name. Sheer cliffs in deep valleys wrap its slopes, and in the early morning, mist flows through the rocks as if the mountain itself is breathing. Zhangjiajie. Our journey now enters the grand wonders of China. Zhangjiajie in Hunan Province is one of the most recognized landscapes in the modern world. More than 3,000 vertical sandstone pillars rise from the forest, some reaching over 1,000 meters. Swirling mist drift between them at dawn, and the entire valley often looks like a series of floating islands suspended in the air. From certain viewpoints, the landscape appears to have no ground at all. Only stone towers rising from endless white cloud. This region inspired the floating mountains seen in the film Avatar. But the legends here stretch back far longer than cinema. Local people have told stories of hidden immortals who use these pillars as stepping stones between heaven and earth. UNESCO recognizes it as a World Heritage Site for its unique geology and rich biodiversity. And the park is also home to one of the longest glass bridges ever built, stretching across a deep gorge at a height that leaves even seasoned travelers momentarily breathless. Mount Hua. Mount Hua in Shanxi Province is one of the most dangerous and breathtaking climbs in all of China. Its highest peak rises above 2,100 meters, and its trails include narrow wooden plank walkways bolted to vertical cliffs hundreds of meters above the valley floor. In some sections, the path is no wider than the length of a single foot. and climbers must clip their safety harnesses to iron chains just to keep their balance. For centuries, Taoist hermits carved tiny temples into the crevices of these cliffs, living in solitude with nothing but the wind, the stars, and the distant sound of eagles circling overhead. Some of these hidden meditation rooms still exist today, preserved exactly as they were 1,000 years ago. Today, climbers wearing safety harnesses follow the same routes, gripping iron chains embedded in the rock. The view from the summit is sharp and endless, with peaks unfolding into distant mist like waves frozen at the moment of breaking. Yandang Mountain. Yandang Mountain in Zhejiang was shaped by volcanic activity more than 100 million years ago. Its landscape is a dramatic composition of sharp peaks, vertical cliffs, and waterfalls plunging hundreds of meters into shadowed pools. Ancient temples cling to the cliff sides, connected by narrow paths that appear to float above the valleys. Legend tells of monks who sought enlightenment here and disappeared into the clouds. On quiet nights, visitors still report faint chanting drifting down from the upper ridges. Langshan in Hunan was recognized by UNESCO for its striking Danxia landforms. Red sandstone peaks emerge from the forest in sculpted shapes that resemble towers. Animals and human figures, formed by millions of years of wind and rain. Baishi Mountain. At the edge of Hebei Province, Baishi Mountain rises above 2,000 meters. Ancient Buddhist murals painted on its cliffs have been preserved for over 1,000 years. Created during an era when this region served as a crossroads of faith and trade along the Silk Road. Bridge and Dihang Grand Canyon. In Hunan, the Aizhai Bridge and Dihang Grand Canyon form one of the most dramatic scenes in modern China. The suspension bridge stretches more than a kilometer between two mountains, suspended nearly 350 meters above the canyon floor. Below it, waterfalls cascade hundreds of meters, and the forested valleys still shelter Miao villages that have preserved their traditions for centuries. Shibadong Village. One of these Miao villages is Shibadong, a small community of stilt houses where villagers wear silver jewelry during festivals and pass down songs through oral tradition alone. In Hubei province lies Zhangjiajie, one of the last great primeval forests in central China. Peaks rise above 3,000 meters, and the forests hide the rare golden snub-nosed monkey and plants that exist nowhere else. Zhangjiajie is also famous for mystery. For decades, local residents have reported encounters with a tall, hair-covered creature walking on two legs. Scientific expeditions have searched these forests for decades, and while nothing conclusive has been found, the legend of the wild man of Zhangjiajie remains one of the most enduring folk stories in China. Yulong Snow Mountain. Our journey now climbs into the world of snow and ice. Yulong Snow Mountain rises above 5,000 meters. Its 13 peaks forming the silhouette of a flying dragon, which gave the mountain its name. Its hidden glacier glows with a rare blue-white color, formed where ice has been compressed for thousands of years until sunlight passes through it, as if through stained glass. For the Naxi people at its base, this is the dwelling place of their mountain god. And their traditions say that those who die for love return to live eternally on its slopes in a hidden paradise called the third realm of the moon. Baima Snow Mountain. Baima Snow Mountain, further south, rises above 5,000 meters and is covered in snow throughout the year. Ancient temperate forests cling to their lower slopes, home to some of the rarest medicinal plants in Asia. Mountain paths still pass stone prayer walls, carved by pilgrims generations ago. Meili Snow Mountain. Beyond Baima rises the Meili Snow Mountain Range, one of the most sacred mountains in all of Tibetan Buddhism. Its main peak, Kava Garbo, stands at nearly 7,000 meters and has never been successfully climbed. A tragic expedition in 1991 lost all of its members, and out of respect for local beliefs, climbing has been prohibited ever since. For the Tibetans, Kawa Garbo is not a challenge to conquer, but a living deity to honor. Every year, thousands of pilgrims make the weeks-long journey to circumambulate the mountain, a ritual known as a kora. They walk in all weather, across mountain passes at 5,000 meters, believing the circuit purifies a lifetime of wrongs. Sunrise at Kawa Garbo is considered one of the most beautiful sights in Asia. For only a few minutes, the entire peak turns pure gold. A phenomenon the locals call the Golden Mountain Blessing, said to appear only for those the mountain chooses to see. Mount Minyakonka. Mount Minyakonka is sometimes called the Everest of the East, rising to 556 meters. It hides behind clouds for most of the year and reveals itself fully only on rare clear days. Deep glaciers and ice caves wrap around its base. Its southern face rises at angles exceeding 60 degrees, and sudden storms can form in minutes. For decades, the mountain's beauty has drawn climbers from around the world, and many have never returned. Dagu Glacier Hidden Pass. At the edge of the plateau rests the Dagu Glacier Hidden Pass, revealed to the world only in 1992 through satellite imagery. This makes it one of the youngest known glaciers on Earth, still active and quietly evolving. The landscape around Dagu is filled with ice caves, crystal formations, and mirror still lakes that reflect the sky without a single ripple. Sinuosu Ice Valley. The Sinuosu Ice Valley is one of the rare places in Asia where the phenomenon known as blue ice can be seen. It forms when snow compresses over long periods into pure ice that traps no air bubbles, allowing light to pass through and take on a deep, glowing blue. In winter, the entire valley becomes a crystalline world of frozen waterfalls and towering ice walls. Snow Basin. Lake Snow Basin rests at more than 4,000 meters. A valley where snow can fall, even in summer beneath bright blue skies. The stillness here is absolute. No birds, no insects, only the soft hush of wind sliding across frozen ground. Visitors often describe losing their sense of time completely. Near the edge of the eastern plateau rises Bayou Mountain, a snow-covered peak reaching above 5,000 meters. A rare phenomenon called the Sea of Clouds often appears at its middle elevations, creating the illusion that the summit floats above a bridge of white. Now we enter the sacred lands of Tibet, Zhangjiajie, in Gansu province, is one of the most astonishing stone landscapes in Asia. Towering limestone walls rise like the ramparts of an ancient lost city. A German geologist who first visited described Zhangjiajie as one of the most perfect natural stone cities ever seen, and the name has remained ever since. Tibetan villages sit quietly in the valleys below, and at sunset, the cliffs glow deep orange as if lit from within. Tashi Dor. Tashi Dor is a sacred island in the middle of Lake Namso, one of the highest saltwater lakes on Earth. At an elevation of more than 700 meters, the lake sits so high that the sky itself seems to press gently down upon it. The rocks of Tashi Dor have been shaped by wind and water into strange forms, and pilgrims walk around the lake as a ritual that can take weeks to complete. Jada Earth Forest. The Jada Earth Forest in western Tibet is one of the most surreal landscapes in the world. Formed over millions of years by the erosion of an ancient lake bed, it consists of thousands of earthen pillars and cliffs that rise hundreds of meters into the air. There are no trees, no animals, only the wind moving slowly through canyons that have stood silent for countless centuries. Lake Cuona. Lake Cuona rests at nearly 5,000 meters, one of the highest freshwater lakes in the region, surrounded by snow-capped peaks and wide grasslands. It freezes completely in winter and becomes a mirror of perfect white. Tibetan pilgrims come here for purification rituals, believing the water carries the blessings of protective spirits. The Anyamakan Mountains stretch across the eastern plateau, with peaks that rise above 6,000 meters. For Tibetan Buddhists, Anyamakan is one of the most sacred mountain ranges in Asia. The pilgrimage route around its base takes several weeks on foot, and the journey itself is considered a spiritual cleansing. Jammu Goddess Mountain. In the Tibetan foothills of Sichuan, Jammu Goddess Mountain takes its name from its silhouette, viewed from certain angles. The ridge resembles a woman lying on her side. Local legend tells of a goddess who fell in love with a mortal man and was turned to stone by jealous gods. A small red flower is said to bloom on the cliff face once a year, only for a single day. Sacred Mountain Zone. The Living Sacred Mountain Zone is one of the highest regions of Tibetan pilgrimage. Many peaks here rise above 5,000 meters. And the air is so thin that even gentle climbs leave visitors breathless. Thousands of pilgrims walk clockwise around these mountains every year, some performing full-body prostrations the entire distance. The Pumi Sacred Ridge. Along the lands of the Pumi people, a sacred ridge rises through the forests. The Pumi believe that their ancestors still watch over the valleys below, and every family maintains small mountain shrines where offerings are left during festivals. Dreams of this ridge are considered ancestral messages. Kangding Misty Ridge, near Kangding. In the deep Tibetan borderlands stands a misty ridge, famous for a phenomenon called the mountain halo. On certain mornings, when sunlight breaks through drifting clouds at just the right angle, a visitor's own shadow can appear in the mist, surrounded by a glowing ring of light. Both Taoist and Buddhist traditions consider this a sign of spiritual favor. Local stories tell of a young monk who meditated on this ridge through an entire winter. When villagers climbed to check on him in early spring, they found only his meditation mat and a soft golden light where he had been sitting. Devil City. Now we enter the realm of the unexplained in western Xinjiang. The World Devil City is a surreal desert landscape shaped by wind and rain over millions of years. Towering rock formations rise across the sand in shapes that resemble castles, animals, and human figures. When the wind blows through them, the rocks produce long, howling sounds that can be heard for kilometers, which is how the place earned its haunting name. Local legend describes an ancient city destroyed for its greed, its inhabitants turned to stone. On windy nights, some travelers still claim the howling wind shapes itself into distant voices. Of Zhangjiajie. In Hubei, the Wild Man Cave of Zhangjiajie is tied to the mystery of unidentified creatures in China. Researchers and villagers have reported finding footprints far larger than any known animals, deeply pressed into the mud. Inside the cave, stalactites have formed into shapes resembling faces and figures. And when light enters at the right angle, shadows seem to move along the walls. Tianchi Crater Lake, in the Changbai Mountains, on the border between China and North Korea. The Tianchi Crater Lake rests in the caldera of a volcano that last erupted in the 10th century. The lake is nearly circular, more than 200 meters deep, and surrounded by vertical cliffs. Reports of strange creatures beneath the surface have persisted for over a century. Scientists have not confirmed anything, but the depth and isolation of the lake have kept the mystery alive. Echo Cave. The Bama Ridge Echo Cave is one of the strangest acoustic locations in the world. In certain chambers, a single clap echoes for nearly 10 seconds. In others, sound disappears entirely into zones of absolute silence. Stalagmites shaped as faces watch from the walls. And the cave roof is so high that echoes sometimes return seconds late, as if answered from another dimension. Mystic Valley. In the mountains of Sichuan, the Ximen Mystic Valley is known for its unusual acoustics. A soft voice can echo 3 or 4 times from the surrounding cliffs. Rocks, stacked in improbable formations, have balanced here for thousands of years without human intervention. The color of the stone shifts subtly between morning silver, midday blue, and evening purple. Qinghua Valley. Deep in the highlands rests the Qinghua Valley, one of the most isolated places in all of China. Fog can reduce visibility to less than a meter, and the entire area is a natural blackout zone where no phone signal reaches. Trees grow directly from vertical rock walls without visible soil, and moss glows faintly green in the evening, giving the whole valley the feeling of an older, forgotten world. Luo-Luolong Sealed Rock Forest. The Luo-Luolong Sealed Rock Forest, hidden in the highlands of Sichuan, is one of the strangest stone landscapes in Asia. Stone pillars over 20 meters tall stand in precise rows, resembling an army frozen mid-March. Some of the rocks bear narrow cracks that look like sealed doorways, which gave the site its name. Local elders believe that ancient rituals once locked something here that should never be released. Zhangjiajie cliff dwellings. Along the Zhangjiajie cliffs, ancient stone structures hang on the edge of vertical drops more than 90 meters high. Narrow stairways climb from cliff to cliff, and small rooms carved into the rock face remain empty, as if the people who once lived here simply vanished. Strange markings on the stones have never been fully decoded. Daotang River Mountain Pass. The Daotang River Mountain Pass is a dramatic mountain road where clear blue water flows through a canyon lined with towering stone pillars. Some rise more than 100 meters above the riverbed. Travelers often stop to offer small prayers at the narrow point, believing the pass holds a kind of protective energy. In the highest region of the Tibetan plateau rises the Trident Edge Ridge, a formation of 3 sharp stone peaks that locals call the weapons of the gods. At sunset, the rocks shift from gold to red to deep violet, and the wind passing through the gaps produces deep, resonant sounds that echo like distant horns. Shangri-La Gorges in Yunnan Province are among the deepest canyons in the world. Some drop more than 2,000 meters, and the walls are so steep that sunlight never reaches certain sections of the floor. Mist constantly rolls through the passages, and rainbows form in the spray of waterfalls, even on days without rain. It was here that the idea of Shangri-La was first written about in Western literature. and ancient Tibetan villages still exist deep inside. Swamp Mountains. The Ruagai Swamp Mountains are unlike anywhere else. At over 3,500 meters, they form a vast, high-altitude wetland where mountains, grasslands, swamps, and glacial streams all meet. In spring, the landscape is brilliant green. In autumn, it turns gold and deep red. When walking across the soft ground, visitors sometimes feel it gently shift beneath their feet, as if the earth itself is breathing. Hoh Xil, and at the far end of our journey lies Hoh Xil, on the Zhangjiajie plateau. It is one of the harshest and most untouched places on Earth. A vast wilderness where humans can barely survive. Average elevations rise above 4,000 meters, and winter temperatures drop to minus 40 degrees Celsius. With winds strong enough to knock a person off their feet, its landscape is a blend of dry grasslands, cold deserts, saltwater lakes, and ancient glaciers, all coexisting within the same region. A rare species of antelope migrates across this land each year, traveling hundreds of kilometers to specific valleys to give birth, and the reason for these exact birthing grounds remains one of nature's quiet mysteries. For decades, rangers have risked their lives protecting these animals from poachers. And today, Hoh Xil is designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, preserved as one of the last places on Earth where nature still moves entirely according to its own rules. Travelers who pass through often speak of a strange shift in perception, as if the vastness of the land quietly rearranges something within them. Hoh Xil reminds us of something essential. After all the temples and mountains, ancient towns and glacial valleys, deserts and sacred lakes, nature is still the oldest storyteller. The stones remember what we have forgotten. The wind carries voices older than any empire. And somewhere, deep in the silence of the plateau, the earth is still singing a song that began long before we arrived. Every mountain we have visited today was a doorway. Every river is a kind of memory. And every legend is a reminder that our ancestors once understood things about the natural world that we are still slowly relearning. China is not simply a country of landscapes. It is a country of thresholds, where the ordinary world softly gives way to something older, stranger, and infinitely more beautiful than we usually allow ourselves to imagine. Thank you for traveling with us today through the hidden realms of China. If this journey touched something in you, consider staying a little longer on the channel. There are more worlds waiting, more mountains to climb, more temples to uncover, more mysteries to walk through together. Until the next journey, may the mountains keep watching over you